Hello, good night. Welcome to my guests and also to the viewers of the program tonight, Legalize, the 6th day of April, 2025. Before we start, I just want to recognize the sponsors of this program, Gel Professional Solution, Inc., Gem FM carrying this program on FM radio out of Canada, and Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union, G-Town.
Attention all workers, your health and safety at work are critical. At Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union, we are dedicated to ensuring you have a safe and secure work environment. If you encounter unsafe conditions or are involved in an accident, take immediate actions. Report it to the company, your shop steward, and make sure it reaches your union. Your health and safety is a priority, and a strong union means a strong voice for your rights. Don't wait. Address concerns right away and protect your well-being. For a safer workplace and a better quality of life, stand with the Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union. Together, we can create a safer, healthier work environment for everyone. Attention all workers, your health and safety at work.
Tonight we are going to be looking at an important and in some cases for many people a vexing topic, namely what takes place on the roads of Grenada, the congestion, and all the other related issues. We have with us tonight two police officers, Inspector Ryan Smith of the Traffic Department. He has been a police officer for all of 30 years. And we also have with us Corporal Troy Paul, who has been a police officer for close to 14 years. So they are practitioners in the traffic business. One may say they are always on the ground. We also have with us Mr. Ken Lewis, who is a director of the Transport Commission. He's a Grenadian. He's a graduate of Presentation Brothers College. He holds a degree in political economy from Universidad de Oriente in Cuba. He holds a master's degree in transport engineering from City College of New York, and a master's degree in management from New York University. He has also been a professor in economics at FIT in New York, and he has worked in transport extensively, in the transportation industry extensively, including at the Metropolitan Transportation Authority in New York. And he has also worked on many major transportation projects. Most recently, Ken has been a founder and current president of the Drivers Cooperative of New York, one of the largest workers' cooperatives in the United States, using membership as a metric. Ken has a passion for worker and driver-owned systems and cooperatives in the transportation industry. We also have with us another Grenadian, Mr. Hatuey Campbell. He's a seasoned engineering professional. He's also a director of the Transport Commission. He was born and raised in the village of Monkmorris, and he began his academic journey at Alpha Junior School, followed by Presentation Brothers College and T.A. Marisho Community College, where he earned an associate degree in information technology. Later, he pursued higher education in the United States, graduating with a Bachelor of Science degree from Cameron University. He began his professional working life at Caterpillar, where he served as both a measurement systems engineer and a component development engineer within the Global Engineering Development Division, working from single cylinder to 22-cylinder configurations. During his tenure at Caterpillar, Mr. Campbell also acted as a technical consultant to the American Petroleum Institute in development of PC-11 oil standards. Among his notable achievements include earning a patent for real-time measurement of a volume in engine oil. He currently leads the global human-machine interface controls team at CNH Industrial, a global leader in agricultural and construction equipment. In this role, he oversees the development of all operator vehicle controls for Case IH, New Holland Agriculture and Construction Equipment brands. He also holds multiple patents pending in the HMI space. Beyond his corporate roles, he's an active contributor to Grenada's development. He serves as director, of course, of the Transport Commission and also Petro-Caribbean Grenada. He resides in Chicago and he's doing this program from Chicago, but his heart is always in Grenada. He's very proud and open about his Grenadian heritage and maintains a strong bond with Grenada. And he is deeply committed to the development and transformation of this beautiful homeland of all of us, on this program at least. So, gentlemen, we have two practitioners in the traffic area, and we have two Grenadians who are making an impact globally in that industry. So I think we should have the brain power to solve what is undoubtedly a problem in Grenada. Inspector Smith, I invite you first to give any opening remarks.
All right. Pleasant good night to the viewing and listening public. Traffic congestion is a phenomenon that affects us all, and it's something that it must, as an organization, we realize that a collaborative effort is needed in solving the issues that surrounds traffic congestion. So we must involve the planning and development authority. We must in the Ministry of Works, MIT, and the Grenadian populace to ensure that that rules are adhered to, and that the traffic congestion situation is being dealt with, and we can come at a manageable stage in dealing with it.
Well, Paul, welcome. We're not hearing you. You're muted, Corporal. You're still muted.
Yes, can you hear me now?
We are.
Yes, sorry about that. Good evening to all your listeners and viewers, both local and in the diaspora, and all to the other guests on the panel. And tonight, I am passionate in relation to the number of reported accidents we are seeing on our nation's road, and it is quite alarming for us at the traffic department. And over the years, we have seen an increase in motor vehicle accidents, reported vehicular accidents, and in the trial and state of Grenada. and also road fatalities. And most of these accidents are avoidable, as we would say. However, it is our responsibility, both as drivers, pedestrians, cyclists, to ensure that we practice road safety. And as I always used to say, or always would say, road safety should be everybody's business. And I want everyone to play their part in relation to road safety so that we can minimize the amount of accidents we have on our nation's road, and therefore we would see the trajectory that we want to go in terms of accident reduction. So this morning was sorry. So this evening I will speak a little on accident statistics and areas surrounding accidents in my presentation.
Okay, good, great. Hatuey?
Yes.
Good evening to you, Mr. Layne, and of course, fellow panelists and all listening guests, whether through audio or video. As you know, we, myself and Mr. Lewis, are from the Grenada Transport Commission, and under Section 3 of the Road Traffic Act, we've been established under Section 3 to as a regulatory authority and more, which we'll talk about, hopefully. But our view is that, is one of transformation, right? And this means that, we have to look at the overall problem that we call congestion. We have to look at all the various elements that lead to the things that we see. We know that you ask any Grenadian what is congestion, and they will probably point at 10 different things, depending on where they live, depending on where they commute, and what we want to establish is that it takes really a Grenadian effort. And I say that because it's going to take the effort of enforcement, regulatory bodies, politicians, and you, the civilians, to really make any dent within the problem that is evidently growing. So this should be a very interesting discussion, from different points of view, of course. Thank you.
And my PBC classmate.
Well, good evening to everyone listening, and of course to the panel. Let me just say that, without repeating what anyone said previously, that congestion and transportation in general is extremely important, because if we're talking about development, this is what moves goods, it's what moves people. It's really the platform, one of the platforms in which development takes place in any country. So it's extremely important that we get this right. And of course, congestion is one of the main problems, but we have to look at it holistically, as Mr. Campbell just said. So I'll stop here and then we can talk a lot later.
But just by opening down, well, not so much, is opening in terms of the discussion. I've heard it said that, listen, congestion that we speak about, and we should try to, as Hatuey was saying, determine exactly what we mean by that. But some say that it is really a sign that we are going places, we are developing, rather than just see it as a problem. I don't know if anyone wants to take that up, or in particular Hatuey, if you want to take that up. I think we had a brief talk about that a few days ago.
Right. Well, some of the I want to say some of the elements that feed congestion are absolutely related to development.
Right. And by congestion, we're speaking about.
Right. So by definition, right? How do we dub congestion, right? Well, congestion is really seen as the condition that prevails when you have an entry of an additional vehicle into traffic, which slows the flow rate. So it's almost seen, consider it as a state that is slowed because of the addition of a element, of another element. You know, so the way it's seen in many communities, and you do have, again, elements of this, right? Speed, which is considered to be the vehicle movement, flow, you know, vehicle per time unit, you have density, you have queue length, and you have duration, right? Which is the time that a vehicle is stationary. So but again, this is more of a down to a scientific term, right? Some people see it as, when you talk to a person, they may see it through their local scope, right? It's the fact that a vehicle is standing still. It's the fact that I can't reach my workplace in the time that I used to 2 years ago, right? So that definition may change based on the person you speak to, but ultimately it's really a flow rate that you're looking at, you know. Thank you. Yeah.
In other words, vehicles can move slowly. The backing up of the traffic. When we talk about congestion, that's what we're speaking about.
Yeah.
As somebody said to me a few days ago, one day the whole of the tongue will just choke and nothing can move if we don't address that problem. That was their explanation as to what they meant by congestion. Literally, the choking of
Absolutely.
the city and other areas as a result of one result being too much traffic on the road, and next one too much traffic parking on the side of the road, lack of parking space and all that. Inspector, I don't know if you agree with that kind of that definition of it.
Yeah, well, what I can say, what we have seen over the years, the progression in terms of the increase in congestion is one of the issues is persons parking on the side of the road. And I think this is a good time where the PDA can come in, because, for instance, homes are being constructed, but there are no driveway, a parking space available. So I think one of the areas that we can deal with that is by ensuring that the physical that the Planning and Development Authority ensures that that when plans are drawn, and it wouldn't be approved without parking space available for that home. Also, the issue of derelict vehicles, that is an issue. Also, volume is an issue, the number of vehicles that we have on our road. And what we can see is happening, you can say every month we are importing at least 300 to 400 vehicles, and the volume of our roads were not constructed for that. The other thing that we can do, though, to ease up the bottlenecks and so on, is to widen the roads where it can be widened. It can be widened. The other thing, we need to promote park and ride. Park and ride, for example, the National Stadium car park can be used as a parking area, and persons take a shuttle into town to ease up the congestion. Also, our road, just to go back on our road infrastructure, the improvement of our road infrastructure. For example, Scott Street, if you drive a vehicle on Scott Street, the road is pretty bumpy, and persons will have to slow up the potholes and so on. So the roads and things need to be resurfaced. So our infrastructure must be addressed. Also, the increase in parking areas. For example, even the market, the market space in town, you can concrete the top of that and create parking space, because we are now seeing that the Aisha car park is becoming too small, because once that area is filled, then we are having congestion in in the city. So these are the issues that we have been faced with. They can be fixed and they can be managed. It's just a matter of taking the steps to ensure to ensure that that they are implemented.
But in just to
Sorry, Ken, come in.
just to comment on that, Inspector in Transportation, we have something called build it and they will come. If you fix it in a certain way, you might fix it for a few months, and they arise a car park, you might go level and then you pull up again. So we have to, and no, some of these suggestions that you are giving, but I think we have to look at it in a more holistic way. And when we think about congestion, a lot of times we think about the vehicles, but the vehicles is just one component. As you pointed out, the roads is another important, because as Hatuey defined it, it's really flow. So it's a capacity of your roads and what that road can take. And if we look at I love to go back to everything with history, because I think that's where you start to look at your solutions. And you can't only find solutions within the parameters of what you have now. You have to look outside the box and see how wider you can do. So in other words, we have cars, but can we have a ferry? Can we have a ferry
Yeah.
from Guave that comes down to Grandans? Because a lot of the congestion
Yeah.
that we have, and I'm not giving them solutions yet, but I'm just saying we need to think outside of the box. So what I wanted to say is that our roads had 1900s, we started to have roads. First kind of paving, because before were kind of dirt roads. We went, and then after World War II, there was a big spurt of new roads. But these roads still, they were, and these are the roads that we have still today. We build roads for one car going up and one car going down. We had some expansion with the feeder roads programs. So for instance, I was surprised recently on GPS when my wife came out by someone in St. Paul's. The GPS told me to go down in Kobotong, and I'm going up to Lansapine. And I was like, they have a road? Okay. So I followed it. And this was a complete road like any other road going right down there. So we have some new roads and some new alternatives that are not being used also.
Yeah.
So I think there's a whole lot we can do and think about, but it has to be holistic thinking. Because if we do it, if we just solve one thing, then something else is going to happen. I've seen it happen a lot around the world. So we have to be careful and look at a holistic approach.
And this is common, right? The reason why we started with the definition, right, is that one of the problems is that we see something, we think it's that one thing we see through what we observe, right, from our perspective only. Then we go after that and we try to solve that, convinced and biased that that is the reason behind the problem. And I want to take us back because, again, it's very important to understand what it is. Congestion is not a Grenadian problem, as Mr. Lewis and as the officers would probably say. They probably speak
Yeah.
to other officers across the region. Congestion is a global issue. Every city, every town, every village, to some degree, is dealing with it in some way, right? And what is very important is that you deal with it in a collective manner. You have to turn a couple dials at the same time, because if you turn one, then you risk making the problem worse. And I'll give you a case in point. We see a lot of cars coming into Grenada, right? So that's been the talk of the town, right? So and there's been multiple calls. People are for and against. We should lower the limit on the age of the vehicles coming in. And I'm not stating a position on it, but what I would say is, if you were to think that only doing that would solve the issue in Grenada and somehow congestion as it stands today would go away, you are mistaken. And that can create all sorts of economic imbalances. In fact, it could be a threat to multiple businesses who would react in a way where, if you have a new car, let's say you shift it from 10 years to 3 years, well, What's to say a bank would not adjust the terms of a loan and make those newer cars more available, right? And thus, when you do that, you have just as many new cars coming in. Problem still not solved, right? So it's key to look at it from a holistic point, as Mr. Lewis was saying. Define it. What are the types of congestion? Most people probably don't know what a simple interaction, multiple interactions, what is a bottleneck? What is a trigger neck? Network control congestion. So you have different types of congestions. And, it's key to educate the public on what they are, what goes into it, the causes. We know, for example, one of the big things in Grenada is the fact that we have fixed capacity roads. In many cases, we are simply unable to widen the roads or create new lanes in either direction, right?
And the
Go
setbacks.
ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Lewis.
No. I'm just adding to what you're saying. And the setbacks from buildings disallows
Absolutely.
any increase.
Absolutely.
One of the ways that the congestion, the additional amount of vehicles on the roads of Grenada, one of the downsides, the negative manifestation of that is the number of accidents that take place each year. And I think, Corporal Shaw, you have an advert where you do an advert on the television, I think, where you point out the fact that in the last 10 years or 12 years, the amount of accidents on the roads have doubled.
Yes. From 2012, we compared 2012 to 2022, and we have seen an increase by 104% in reported accidents. And now we've gone to 2020. Well, compared to 2024 now, it has increased further in relation to the number of reported accidents. So yes,
so you had about 1,200 reported accidents 12 years ago, and now you have over about 2,500.
So compared to let's go as far as 5 years back, we had a total of 2,226 reported accidents, which we had 6 road fatalities, 2,121 minor, and 99 serious. And jumping to 2024,
what do you consider a serious accident?
Serious accidents where we have serious damages to motor vehicles and also injuries to individuals or persons from that vehicle.
Okay.
Or injured as a result of that accident.
Okay. And based on the statistics for the last 5 years, we have had at least 100 of those every year.
Serious accidents, yes. So if we're looking at 2020, we had a total of 99 serious accidents. Then going to 2021, we had a total of 110 serious accidents. We had a slight decrease in 2022, where we had 102 serious accidents. And we had a decrease again in 2023 of 83 serious accidents. And moving back up to 105 in 2024.
I think we could just share a screen where we have a chart showing it. Bentley?
Yes, sure.
That's vehicular imports. Yes. That's accidents, major and fatal accidents.
Yes.
And the brown part shows the fatal accidents.
Yes.
So what's the first year?
The first year is 2020.
2020.
Yes.
So that's 2020 to 2024.
Okay.
So and that shows we have between 100 and as close to 120, just below that, major accidents which involve serious damage to property,
vehicles,
report,
property, and injuries to
and
person.
injuries, and in the cases they will show in the fatalities. So that's we could say is the cost that the cost is quite evident to vehicle owners, to property owners, and of course to the human beings in terms of injuries and deaths. And every death affects a family, every injury affects a family, affect individuals, and of course they have their costs. So not just financial, but emotional costs and so. And we say, Corporal, that 10 years ago, the situation was not that serious.
So do you have 10 years ago?
He has the figures for 10 years ago, yes. But we don't have a graph to it.
Not on the chart, but the figures 10 years ago would have been what? Half of that?
Half of that, yes. And the major accidents would have been even less than that.
Of course, every serious.
Let me stop you.
But we also have to that we would have had many more cars also added in that period. So it's
but that's the point.
Compared to that period.
I am told that that's something I want to ask Inspector Smith about, that we have 63,000 registered vehicles in Grenada, but 41,000 on the road. That's correct, Inspector?
Yes, we have 63,000 registered vehicles, and 41,000 of the total is active.
So those that are not active, where are they?
Well, that's why they can be accounted for derelicts and so on. Derelicts and vehicle being repaired and so on.
So in other words, 1/3 of the vehicles that we have in Grenada are probably on the roadside and other places.
Yes, and that is one of the major problems, is dealing with the derelicts and so on. Well, the MIT came on board, and that is progressing quite well, because
and the MIT is
the MIT, the Ministry of Implementation and Transformation.
Okay, good.
They have been assisting us pretty well in getting the vehicles off the side of the road and so on, derelict vehicles. They will normally send out a chart or schedule, which we go in the different parishes every month and remove derelict vehicles. So that is helping a lot in cleaning up our roads.
You think how much vehicles you think have been removed by the MIT, let's say the last 24 months?
In the last 24 months, you could say maybe on average, you might say about 3 to 500 vehicles, yes.
Okay, so we still have about 20,000 on there.
Yeah, we still have a lot to
deal with.
To deal with, yes.
And of course, that creates another problem in terms of how do we dispose from a waste management standpoint. How do we dispose of these vehicles?
Yeah.
That's a problem in itself.
Yes, that's another problem in itself.
Yeah.
But they have been crushing those vehicles. They have been crushing them and sending them to Trinidad.
Can you repeat that? I haven't heard you.
I said they have been crushing them and send them to Trinidad.
That's a derelict vehicles, kid.
Yes.
When they remove them, they crush them and they send the crushed material to Trinidad.
Yes.
And they reuse them in Trinidad? I guess.
Yes.
Okay, another thing is, can you raise about the import of when your talk was that there are many new vehicles on the road, and Inspector Smith pointed out that every month we are bringing in about 3. You said 300 to 400?
Yeah, 300 to 400 vehicles every month.
And most of these are used vehicles. I think we also have we could share the screen in terms of vehicle imports over the last 5 years. Went up until 2024. Yeah, and it shows yes, close to 300 a year. The blue there are used vehicles.
Yeah.
And the brown, it's new vehicles. It does appear now that there is a trend towards a bit more new vehicles than before. Although still
Yes.
the majority of vehicles are used vehicles.
Used vehicle.
So I think that takes one of the points that Hatuey was making, Mr. Campbell, namely that clearly the sale or resale of used vehicles is a serious business in the country.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
yes, so
absolutely, this is proof that one policy by itself, or one dial, as we like to call it, by turning that one dial, the market will adjust, people will adjust, and find a way. But it has to be something where you're trying to implement a multi-layered strategy that's attacking all the things that lead to the congestion problem that we talked about, right? And in terms of accidents, I mean, that is an entire issue in itself, right? Yes, we could say that the volume of cars coming in, more drivers on the road, so at any given point in time, you have a higher probability of more traffic, a person speeding, so those things are definitely impacted by the number. But what we have noticed as well, and most Grenadians, I'm sure, could tell you, and I know the officers on the call and our fellow wardens, there's a major behavioral issue, with our drivers. The discipline of our core driving base across all those registered vehicles that you alluded to is fairly poor. I'll give you an instance. On a trip from St. George's, Queen's Park to, I want to say, the Sates bus terminal, I encountered 56 dangerous encounters where I had to take evasive maneuvers, meaning swing away either at the last moment, even though I was on my driving line, based on someone suddenly stopping or not giving the right away when a vehicle was on their side and I had the right away. 56, right, of those dangerous encounters, which relied on me to take action. That's on one trip, by the way. And this is the point I'm making is that these things are caused by simple things that we learn during a driving test. They're related to discipline, in many ways. And this is what the everyday Grenadian is facing, by the way, at increasing levels. Because remember, we talked about more cars, younger drivers, everybody wanting to have their own access to their own private vehicle, so this is happening at an alarming rate, so it's definitely a growing issue from that.
Let me just get that again to see if it could really sink in. You're talking about a trip from Queen's Park to Sates, so that's less than 1 hour.
Yes. I had the CEO of the GTC with me, and we were heading up to observe the Sates terminal. 56 instances where, and I was counting just mentally, just to, because we know this is an issue, but just wanted to count, the amount of times I had to suddenly stop, swerve, take different forms of action to avoid an accident or dangerous circumstance.
And that was in the daytime, eh?
Daytime.
Also?
Daytime.
That's staggering.
Yeah. And this is just one. This is just observation, right? This is just observation, right? So,
I just wanted to come in here to probably get to another related issue. Okay, 63,000 cars. A lot of them, a lot of them off the road, probably parked on the road, causing the congestion. Now, there is another economic factor in congestion, and it has to do with the price of congestion. There is a price.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so safety is one, we point out safety, but every time you stay in a car, if you imagine people coming to work and they are stopped at a particular place, so they're all reaching to work late. So they're either getting less money because they're losing working time, productivity goes down, businesses suffer. So if you don't have flow of transportation, congestion is a very costly thing. I always remember one of the articles that was written by one of my teachers some years ago that said, better to be dead than stuck in traffic. And basically what he was saying is that given the time people are stuck in traffic in Los Angeles, given what they work for, it's better if they were dead. I mean, just to make it, readable. He doesn't actually mean that, but saying that given what people work for, because you lose money when you are stuck in traffic and the economy loses money. So that's a really big factor. Another thing I want to point out is that Grenada's development, transportation is a very integrated system.
Mm-hmm.
So all our development has gone south.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take from St. David's, come back to St. George, as a matter of fact, when I leave St. George's on a morning and I go out of St. George's, it's fine. There's no traffic. Traffic is really a phenomena related very much around the main cities and St. George's and the south. So, and these roads were not built with any bypass. There isn't any. So somebody coming from Guave to work in the south, I remember talking to a young lady who says she has 2 kids, wakes up in the morning, and no matter how early she wakes up, she's reaching late into work because the public transit system is just not good, consistent enough to get her there with added within the congestion. So we have a lot of things to solve. And that's why, again, we've been meeting with some other experts from universities and so on. And one of the things I've been trying to let's look outside of the box because we have to find other solutions, not just within the parameters that we have right now.
Absolutely. And just to expand on what Mr. Lewis said, right? There have been some economic studies in regards to transportation in the Caribbean, and it was estimated that Trinidad and Tobago, it cost them approximately 1.3% of their annual GDP.
Yeah.
Right? Around 2.26 billion, sorry, not trillion, billion TT due to congestion. When you look at the time spent in traffic per year, they estimated around 793 hours per year. And what they were saying is that, technicians and professionals were actually the ones highest impacted during those studies, So it is, and it's estimated that Grenada's throughout the region, it's very similar in nature, so you can expect a fairly high amount lost in terms of GDP. Right. Look at our roads on the morning, and servicemen can't get to where they're going. Professionals cannot get to where they're going. So it's a similar impact, very large.
So we need to diversify where the transportation originators are. So we have all our destinations in the south. So if we had hotels and workplaces probably in Guave or other places, that would have helped a lot. But what we hear is everybody at the peak hour in the morning from 7 until 9, everybody is rushing to get into Grandad's. And that is part of our problem. So our development, transportation, congestion is also a result of the way we plan our own development. And so we have to look a lot of this.
I just want to agree a bit with Mr. Campbell and Mr. Lewis on the issue that the accidents are not caused solely by the volume of traffic on our roads. But what I can do say is that the increase in volume ensures that the driver margin for error is very slim. Also, in terms of diversifying the public transportation system, I think that is critical now for Grenada because our public transportation system is unreliable. So persons will go into purchasing private vehicles, for example, and afternoons, the amount of people that you will see stranded on the bus stop, on the different bus stop waiting to get home. I think that is an issue that Grenada need to address and to address urgently.
Yeah, and then also, of course, that is aggravated, that problem during the tourist season.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, nearly all the buses and so several of the buses that would otherwise operate for the public, I think they go and do the tourists. So you need to plan to build for that because that's how they make the income. You can't expect them to do otherwise. I mean, that's a rational way of operating. Inspector Smith, just confirm for me that it is an offense, a traffic offense, to park a vehicle on the side of the road in a manner that obstructs the free flow of the traffic.
Well, yes, it is an offense. And I just want to read from section 67, what section 67 of the law says. It says that the owner, a person in charge of a motor vehicle, whether in working condition or not, shall not cause or permit that vehicle or any trailer drawn thereby to remain stationary on any road in such a position, in such condition, or in such circumstances as is likely to cause danger or obstruction to other traffic using the road. So it doesn't necessarily have to cause the obstruction to make it an offense, but it's just likely to cause obstruction. And once a vehicle is left on our road, it's likely to cause obstruction.
Okay, so my question is that it's twofold, and it's you can answer both, but I also invite the others to in particular members of the Transport Board. I think you'll accept that it is a fact that all over the country, and it is more prominent in some areas than others, vehicles park on the side of the road, and that is a problem for the traffic.
Definitely, that is a big problem for congestion. It is causing, for example, if you look at the Mclean area that's just been opened, all right, and because of the width of that road there and so on, and vehicles parking on a morning, especially during the rush hour, it creates a problem. In the Grandans Valley area as well, vehicles parking on the side of the road, especially during the rush hour, morning and evening, it will create big what we refer to as traffic jam in those areas.
Right. So there's clearly what I'll call an enforcement deficit.
Well, I wouldn't say entirely.
So that's why I wanted to ask it in two parts. That there is an enforcement deficit, and then I want to ask the others, is there a downside in trying to resolve that deficit? Or is there something that we have to live with?
No.
Yeah, well,
No.
I do not believe it's something that we have to live with. It's something that we need to alleviate. We must get rid of this idea of person just parking on the side of the road, and that's why that's why I said it's a bigger problem than an enforcement deficit. Because, for example, look at the Montu area, which is a bypass road. It's a bypass road that can be used to get away from the congestion on the Grandans Road. And all the houses that are constructed in those areas, there is no driveway. And that's why I said the Planning and the Development Authority needs to get involved to ensure that we build driveway to our home, especially if we live in if we're living on the side of the road. Because persons are just buying a vehicle and just park it on the side of the road, and that vehicle stays there for hours.
I couldn't agree more. And I think we have to add some more. Look, in many places, if you have a car on the street and the car is parked there, they would put a boot on it. They would put a notice. And if the car is there for 3 days or 2 days after that notice is done, the car is moved and brought into a pond. And if no one claims it, the car is sold or destroyed or whatever. To me, we have to move to these standard systems that are used all over the world. If your car is parked on blocks and you have it there on the government road, it's you can't. We shouldn't be allowing that in this day and age.
Yeah, but I asked that because the absence of what some of the inspector said about the PDA, but that's for the future, right?
Yes.
But now you have a problem now. You come into the town to do business, right? And there's no parking. So there is always there's that temptation, invitation, sometimes to take a park on the side of the road,
Yes.
if it is available. Yeah. So that's why I was asking if there's a downside, because I know that there are people who say, look, I leave all maybe Guelph, Grenville to come to do something to town, and literally they become with a vehicle, and the reason they have to travel with the vehicle,
Right.
maybe because of the problem of the public transport. And then when they come into town, you just can't get a park because there's a riser parking space that in that area there. But it is sometimes even when you have tourist boat inside, it's filled. And even when you don't have tourist boat inside, no, it's filled.
Yeah.
So
that's
yeah,
a
so
case.
we definitely have to as things this is our reality. As you mentioned, you looked at the number of vehicles registered, and we know that we have a problem with the amount of space available on roads. We know that people have built for many years, right, without any provisions for where do I put my vehicle, right? We know that we have to partner with different groups such as the Planning and Development Authority, etc. But when it comes to the use of the roads, and this is what I would mention here, we do have an opportunity, right? Because the Road Traffic Act itself is very broad reaching in its powers and the ability to flex within our modern environment, right? As we see more cars coming in. The reason the officer alluded to Section 67, but there's also Section 81, which gives the minister broad powers under order to actually manage how vehicles use our roads, right? Any roads, it's very broad. So in situations where we have vehicles parking, right, and simply stopping in roads, etc., yes, it's a matter of enforcing, but we can also help him develop new orders in the way in which these roads are used. Going back to vehicles filling up the parking lots, etc. One of the, again, thinking outside the box, as Mr. Lewis said, let's look at the broader issue. We know that we are landlocked with our current state in town. We might be able to go one level up in some cases, but at some point that becomes challenging in itself, so we may have to look at discouraging people, during certain hours, or providing opportunities to leave your car outside of these congestion zones. We know that coming into town is going to cost you hours. We spoke about the 700 plus hours that you lose every year, right? What we can do, and again, this is nothing set in stone, but I'm just saying These are all things we can discuss as different bodies, right? Along with the minister. But we can look at spaces where we can allow people to leave their cars outside of those congestion zones and come in via the public transport, and when I say public transport, this could be via means of rideshare. It could be our national bus system, right? We can strengthen that, make sure that it's accessible, predictable, because that's one of the things that you had mentioned, right? So if a person, I'm just going to give an example. If Inspector Ryan Smith is coming from Guelph, right? He has a meeting to be at in Grand Anse, right? He stops at that public parking center, stops there outside. So this is not the town of St. George's itself. Instead of coming to St. George's with his private vehicle, he stops there. And a shuttle then takes him from there to another location at a time schedule. So he knows and he can see that this public transportation unit is taking him at this time and dropping him at this time, right? And then he can get to that meeting or whatever engagement he needs to be at on time. And if you're doing something like this, right, it means that you're taking, because one of the problems that you see as well is that every vehicle passing you on the road is only one person in the vehicle. One person, So imagine you're taking, 18 to 30 people, right? And then you're putting them in a comfortable unit or across multiple buses, and you're transporting them, instead of that being 18 vehicles in itself trying to come and look for a park in town. That makes a huge difference, right? So the whole point of saying this is that we have to approach this not from a standpoint of trying to solve it from how do we squeeze all these vehicles into the parking lots in town? Because we know from looking at it, not anytime soon, these parking lots are not going to change in their design or capacity. So what can we do about it? So we have to look at it through a different lens and try to create these opportunities so that we reduce the amount of that traffic coming into these congested areas. Right?
Just wanted to add to, as was saying, a number of things that are commonly practiced to solve the congestions. So you have BRT systems, which are bus rapid transit. So you give the bus a priority to go. I mean, this has worked well in places like Lagos and so on to ease some congestion. And so that's really what Mr. Campbell is describing, something like this. And this could be mixed with the congestion and pricing. So if you drive your car into the city, there is going to be a charge. If you drive your car into the city, into this zone between 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock, no cars. So if you come inside there, you are going to get a charge. And we can do this automatically. A camera will take in your license plate, and that's it. There is a host of traffic management. We do it within the police, and the traffic wardens, but there are also automated systems that Mr. Campbell could talk a lot on. We have to promote non-vehicle traffic, so bicycles, and other ways of them getting around. They don't have to be motorized, and of course, rideshare and the carpooling and so on. We can use all of that, and eventually we'll get to intermodal, where you can come from one place and take a ferry. Let's say you stop by the Green Bridge, okay? But it's not green again, but by the park. So you stop there and you get a ferry that would go into the Green. So there's a lot of different things we can do. And of course, the urban planning that everyone mentioned, we have to do better urban planning where we spread more of the destinations and work and so in other parts of the country. We just can't have it all in one area.
Ken, I want to take some of the comments from the chat, but before I do that, I want to ask a question both to well, I'll ask you any one of you can answer, but I think it's more Ken or Hatuey and Inspector Smith. What's the relationship between the Police Traffic Department and the Transport Commission?
Hatuey.
No problem. The way the framework is set right now is that think of it as the police as the enforcement, but also too I want to say that it's much more than that, because remember the commissioner himself does sit on the transport board as well, transport commission as well. So he has direct input in the various strategies, both short, medium, and long term as well. And the Transportation Commission itself, which is really a regulatory body that is put in place to advise the minister, right, on matters of public transport, is very different, because we look at fares, at rates, at the general operations of public transport. From a strategic standpoint, we have the things like the Warden program. We look at the day-to-day operations of the bus system that people take, and all really land-based transport, right? So, and you would have seen things, for example, from the Transport Commission, such as the things that we can talk about, like the bus pilot program, Spice Bus, that's in place right now. That's actually running right now, which we can go in depth on. But there are distinct differences, right? When you look at the police force, there's a lot to do with enforcement and a lot within our laws that they are responsible for. In fact, our wardens, who are really under the GTC, work hand in hand, you can say, with the police officers in terms of management. Think of it more as traffic management, whereas you have more of the traffic enforcement coming from our police officers. And of course, the inspector and the corporal on the call can expand on that. There's a lot more to what they do, obviously.
Okay, so let me just take some comments from the chat, and you'll see why I asked that question.
Sure,
also,
sure.
Somebody was trying to call. We had a problem with the call, WhatsApp call. The technical man is trying to fix that. Okay. So we will hopefully deal with that in a while. And so someone is saying that person is listening from Barbados, in fact. And I guess Barbados have similar problems. So they were asking, do you have public service vehicles who may not comply with the laws? They speak about infrastructure, roads. We need to have the hours of work and schooling staggered, because you have people school time and work time, same hours, and that's a source of congestion. It is having driving cars through the town, not enough walking too.
Yes.
The person is saying, one person says here, Godwin Thomas, my view is that roundabouts are primitive. We need to move from that and have ramps, so that will eliminate giving way to traffic on the right.
Yeah, I wouldn't call roundabouts primitive. What I would say is that roundabouts, they regulate traffic well. However, when the traffic gets too much, they exponentially add to the problem. You understand? So they move traffic well when things are normal. But I think he's hitting on something really important, that in the early part of his question, one of the real problems we have is that our public service, and I want to be very careful in the way I word this, is not well regulated. Now, Grenada relied on private people to provide public buses. I mean, I used to be in the bus business when I was in Grenada. I wanted a bus. I live in Bolio. I go and buy a bus and I run it in Bolio. Now, the need for the bus may not be in Bolio. It may be in Grand Anse, or it may be somewhere else. And so we had this totally unregulated system to this day. All we've added is zones. But on Sunday, no buses. But a lot of people are walking on the road. In the night, I mean, it's a safety issue for young people who work, young ladies who work in the hotel industry. One person was telling me that the girlfriend had to take a ride share for $100 and something and to reach home, you know, and in the night. So we need to solve those kind of problems. And while the bus system is private, people have paid money for the buses and everything, we have to get more regulation. If you are going to get a bus and you are going to get the privilege to run on this road, we have to have set times. By the way, this is just my saying. I mean, it's not in the Transportation Board, but I think we have to move them to that level, because until we have a reliable public transportation system, people will be buying their own cars, and as long as we keep adding cars, we'll keep aggravating on the problem.
Okay, Joseph Sylvester says, Inspector, why is the law that's just been read not being enforced? Question.
What?
I could just let me read out the comments. Someone said one of the main problems is the garages occupying one lane of the road.
Yeah, that is one of the next issue in terms of roadside garages, and those roadside garages need to be registered and so on, and they are not. So that is another issue that needs to be dealt with. Also, on the issue of the roundabout, I do not think that roundabout are primitive. I think that the roundabout do have its function. But we as a department, as a traffic department, have been addressing that. On mornings, we are sending out officers on the different roundabout to take control of the traffic there. Because we see the need, because even if you say give way to traffic on the right, sometimes the place that have to give way on the right is where the larger volume of traffic is coming from. So at that time, the roundabout is not effective. So we are sending officers at the roundabout to aid in controlling the traffic and so on. So we have been looking into those things as well.
Right. Joseph Sylvester also says all that has to be done is not to license or insure any vehicle without the owner providing proof that that vehicle would be parked on their property. That's what the person says. Next person says bars and barbecue tent also hinder traffic.
Yeah.
Next person says, and I strongly suggest that the RGPF hosts a town hall meeting to get input from road users and by extension citizens as to how do we address the traffic congestion in our country. So I guess it has to be both the RGPF and the Transport Commission, the Transport Board, or maybe the Transport Board and the RGPF.
Yeah,
but I think that person is saying that it is an issue that is so serious that it requires that kind of attention. Next person said the RGPF needs to patrol on unmarked vehicles, particularly on the Grenada's main road. These bus drivers control the traffic on that route.
Yeah.
Next person says, why is it that people who are approved for route sticker and no longer have a bus for more than 3 years, why are they holding on to those stickers if they are no longer providing the service? These route stickers should expire after a period of time. Once it is no longer being used for the intended purpose, instead of telling instead of telling applicants that routes are saturated, when in fact there are people holding on to those stickers without having a bus.
Yeah.
Next person says, all humans will break the law once they recognize that enforcement is weak. I think that's the same person that asks why the law is not being enforced.
Yeah.
They say they claim the wardens gather at Sugar Mill roundabouts. And the person also says the big trucks are driving faster than the cars. Is it the speed limit 35 and 40 miles per hour? One person says, these are my suggestions. No parking 7 to 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. weekdays on major arteries. 2, revisit the mechanized division to enforce these regulations. 3, place signage in a conspicuous place. And we need to be seeing more police patrolling our community rather than billboards advertising community police. So you have these comments. I hope we can get the call still. But Inspector, that problem with I know, but it adds to congestion. These big trucks and these big trailers. Let's just take this call, please. Hello, good night, caller. Yes, please, go ahead. Proceed, please. Yes, proceed. Yes, proceed with your comment, please. Good evening, we're hearing you.
We can't hear. I'm not sure, Mr. Lewis, can you hear anyone else?
No, I'm not.
No from my end.
We're hearing you. Please proceed.
Mr. Layne, we can't hear them, huh? You can.
Dr. Jessica, we have a problem still. When we correct that problem, I will indicate that and please call back. We're very sorry about that. Okay, then. Sorry about that.
Yeah, but all very good suggestions.
Let me ask. It was Dr. Valma Jessica, and she was saying she was trying to give some of her insights from doing environmental impact assessments. It's a pity the call wasn't coming through. I don't know if we could correct that. Yes, it appears to be coming through now. Hello? Let me just clarify that. Are the panel here? Panel members here?
No.
No,
Yes. But just we'll have to try again in a while. I'll indicate when we can try.
It says unmuted now, so maybe try
Okay.
again.
Unmute call.
Yeah.
It's a pity we're not able to hear her.
In relation to the issue with the big trucks and so on and the speeding, what we want to, as an organization and as members of the traffic department, what we want to encourage the general public is to cooperate with us. Because example,
let me just try
with
to
trucks
call one more time.
Yeah.
Hello, caller.
Okay.
We heard you now.
Yeah.
Are members of the panel here?
I believe so.
Intermittent, yeah. But let her go ahead.
Okay, no, I will convey what you say. Go ahead, please, Valma.
social impact studies for road development here in Grenada. So I wanted to contribute from that context.
Yes, yes. Yes, go ahead, please. Hello? Go ahead, please, Barbara.
Okay. So, well, there are a couple of issues that I think are obvious and maybe not so obvious as it relates to the history of our development. So like you have communities where there was no planning, no forward planning, so it's impossible for households to have ways for parking. Take for instance, for example, all the big stones, and so in that community at any point in time, especially in the evening, you find lots of vehicles parked on the roadway. The solution that, yeah, okay. I'm not sure what to do.
1 minute, Barbara. We try to.
There's some technical challenges.
We're sorry about that, but
We were hearing her. She said solution, and if
Yeah, it cut from there. Yeah.
we want to get
Yeah.
your input. Okay, so let's just recognize the sponsors. Gem Professional Solutions, Gem FM, carrying this program on FM radio in Canada, and also Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union, GTAU. Hopefully we can fix that problem, because it will be good to hear Dr. Jessamy get her input on this.
Work are critical. At Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union, we are dedicated to ensuring you have a safe and secure work environment. If you encounter unsafe conditions or are involved in an accident, take immediate actions. Report it to the company, your shop steward, and make sure it reaches your union. Your health and safety is a priority. And a strong union means a strong voice for your rights. Don't wait. Address concerns right away and protect your well-being. For a safer workplace and a better quality of life, stand with the Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union. Together, we can create a safer, healthier work environment for everyone.
But you try this out. Okay, welcome back. Technical assistant is trying to correct the problem. But in the meantime, Inspector, I wanted to ask the issue of these big trucks. I think I started to ask about them. That adds to the problem seriously. That's so.
Yeah, it's add to the problem, and one of the clause that, especially with the SL vehicles, I think that we need to put laws in place for those trucks to be on the road at a specific time and not during the rush hour. So different times we can regulate the times in which those vehicles can be on the road, and in terms of enforcement with those vehicles, the driver behavior in terms of speeding and so on. I just want the general public to know that we need the support in terms of enforcement, because when we go in after those situations, for example, videos and so on that people record, the police officers cannot be everywhere and see everything and know everything. So when those persons record those videos and we come to the person as a means to give evidence in the court to prosecute those persons are pulling away, and they are not supporting us in terms of giving us the evidence and so on. So we need the public support in terms of enforcement. The other issue about enforcement of the vehicles, taking the vehicles from the side of the road. We have what we refer to as what we can refer to as a storage issue. Yes, take the vehicles from the side of the road, but where are we putting them? Because once you take away somebody's property, you have to ensure that that property is being taken care of and it is secured. And once we have a storage problem, then it's difficult to take the vehicle from the side of the road because we have no place to store it and so on. So that is an issue. So that's why I said enforcement alone can solve the problem. There are different issues that need to be dealt with as well.
So we don't have a formal pond? We don't have a formal
no.
pond where we keep vehicles taken from people?
No, we don't have a formal pond.
Okay.
Something I think that has to be talked more on.
Okay, I think the phone problem is fixed now. So, Dr. Jessamine, if you're there, you can try calling once again. Okay, Cyrus Griffith says, I suggest that there should be more police to assist on the traffic lights from about 7 to 9 a.m. and about 3 to about 5 p.m. I think that's what's being raised there. It's Inspector, that general problem with the traffic lights.
Well, he's right with the lights. Sometimes the lights add to the congestion. But we normally we are doing that at the moment. We are putting persons on the traffic light during the rush hour, and those times that he make mention of, these are the times that we will normally operate.
Has there been any consideration to taking off the lights when you put the police officers there? Because I know sometimes members of the public get confused. Let's take the call.
That is an issue.
Hello, caller.
Hello, I'm back.
Yes. I hope we hear you now.
We're good.
We hear it? Yes, we hear it. The panel is here, so proceed, please.
Okay, good evening, everyone. And thanks for allowing me to join.
Good evening.
At my bit. As I mentioned earlier, over the past 30 years or so, I would have participated as a lead consultant in many road development studies in Grenada, St. Vincent, and other Caribbean islands. And we look at the environmental and social impacts. One of the major issues is the fact that we have not had planned development in the islands, particularly in the English-speaking Caribbean. We can see that played out in places such as Brizan, for instance, where because of the terrain, the physical terrain and the geology, it's difficult for people to even establish their homes. I lived in the UK, in East Anglia, Norwich, where I did my doctoral work, and there were community car parks. If you look at the old housing setup, the roads, the streets were very narrow and the houses are attached to each other. They had no garages. So they built community car parks. And one of the things we advocated for in some of the road improvement projects here in St. Vincent and elsewhere was to put in community car parks so people can park. The structure could be one where there's an annual fee. It could be tied to the vehicle registration, etc. Community car parks work. So some of the problems with parking on the roadside could easily be alleviated. We've identified spaces along the main road, along the carriage, where these community car parks can be established, can be built. Another issue was that of laybys. If you look at the roads, we do not put laybys in. A layby is only about 10 feet, about 3 meters in width, which allow the buses in particular to pull away from the main carriageway so that they can take up passengers, they can drop off passengers. We do not have lay-bys. So you may see an area designated as a bus stop and there's a shelter, but there's not a lay-by. So the bus still has to do its business of picking up and dropping off passengers in the main carriageway. And that is one of the reasons why we also see this big backup in traffic and the congestion along the road. So those two very practical, doable solutions, we have recommended them in our work many times. We've worked on.
Maybe they could hear you.
They're hearing me.
Yes.
Are you hearing me?
Yes, we are hearing
Yes,
you.
we can hear
Yes,
you. We can hear you.
We are hearing you. We are listening attentively.
Yes.
Somebody just stopped me.
Oh, we are hearing you.
Yes. So I'm saying those are practical, very practical, doable solutions that suit our local circumstance. It's designed into the projects. We've worked with road engineers from Japan. We worked with a team from JICA who did extensive studies here in Grenada. We designed in community car parks. We designed in laybys. The projects get implemented, the road upgrade and whatnot was done, but the laybys were never put in. The community car parks were designed out in the projects for all kinds of reasons. I'm not sure if budgetary reasons or if there was misallocation of the funding, because those costs were in the final project design. And so to date, even look at the Mclean project, the Great Wall of Mclean, which cost many millions of dollars. A simple solution would have been to put in a community car park. Because if you look at the terrain and all the geological issues, it's difficult for each person to construct a driveway and to have their own parking. But a community car park, strategically located, would resolve some of those problems. People will pay fees, etc., to have their cars parked there, and it could be integrated into a community shop or whatever other ways. But there are these very practical strategies that somehow we stuck in this cultural space where nobody wants to implement them, and it's recommendations that I know we have put into many road upgrade projects, working with international traffic engineers, with designers, and we found the space along the carriageway to put in these laybys, to put in community car parks, etc.
Sorry, go ahead, Dr. Josephine.
Another was parking facilities on the outskirts of the city, so you can have a park and ride. For instance, if you go to Orlando, they've got these community car parks, public car parks, where you would park, you pay a fee, and then there's a shuttle. Just as how Hubbard's, for instance, Hubbard's has a shuttle. Hubbard's, the hospital has a shuttle. They shuttle people around. I'm not sure if there's a fee. I know the Hubbard's one is free, but we can have shuttles that could shuttle people around so that you not go directly into the city center looking for a park. So there are immediately these options. The wider national development, long-term planning, we have this colonial legacy to correct, where we have poor development planning, and that's a big issue. But in the short term, it's not difficult to find laybys, and then the police now could step in and say, okay, I could enforce this. A bus cannot just stop anyway along the roadway or any point to pick up a passenger, because you can't say this is a bus stop and draw lines on it, and it's still in the main road. The bus should be put into a lay-by, and that way the traffic continues to flow. And those are very, very practical, easy fix that we have the physical space, because you're talking only about 10 feet in width, right? About 3 meters or so. So you could create these laybys as a matter of urgency. I mean, right around the countryside, the Ministry of Infrastructure could go out now and put in these laybys.
Okay, but let me ask you, I don't know if you are free to disclose any specific road development project that there was that recommendation for the community parking that was not implemented. I don't know. I know there may be confidentiality issues, but
Well,
if there are none,
I wouldn't go into the
you wouldn't go into
specific,
any
but the
details.
reports are there. The reports are
The
there.
reports are there. Okay.
The reports are there. The environmental assessments are there. The social impact studies are there, because in many of the cases we go to the households, we talk to people, we have community meetings, etc. And so we got feedback from communities. One of the things that is done is some part of the studies include some projections. So you would have people standing on the road counting vehicles. You would have information from the dealers looking at, projecting population growth, and those kind of things goes into those studies. Very detailed work goes into those studies. And those recommendations from the community, from what people want to see, from how they want bus stops to operate, all of those things have influenced the recommendations in those impact studies.
Okay.
And I haven't seen any of it implemented today. Those very simple fix. So right now, the Ministry of Works could go around the country and find places where they can put in laybys, and then you policemen, you have conversations with the busmen and enforce that. But it's difficult to enforce if you don't have those very basic support, very basic physical infrastructure support.
Okay, thank you very much, Doc. So let me ask, thank you very much, Doc.
Okay, all right, good.
Yes. I don't know if Hatuey and Ken, you want to comment on her contribution there?
Yeah, I think that her contribution was invaluable. I think that certainly those are ideas I've heard mentioned from within the urban planning community, and we've seen it certainly from our strategic planning standpoint as well. Just to take and we can address a few points that were mentioned, and hopefully I'm hoping that the doctor can actually share the results of those studies with the GTC, because we are in the process of ratifying our strategic plan to help with that transformation that she was alluding to. It by no means is it easy, right, to address congestion, right? Certain elements, certain things are low-hanging fruits, right? And the doctor may have mentioned a few that certainly can be done. What I do know is that up to the minister himself, he has indicated his true belief that we need to act now. In fact, the GTC, and this includes the Commissioner of Police, by the way, is right now facing the challenge of, having to develop that strat plan to execute along with other bodies such as planning, the police force, and others to collectively face what we see is happening on the island. What we've seen from observation is that certainly we can implement certain levies, we can implement, and those are as the doctor had mentioned, a certain distance alongside the road where you can have a bus stop. What I will say though, I'll take it back to discipline. I'll give you a case in point here. One of the bus stops that is well known, we look at the roundabout by Republic Bank before you hit the Morris Bishop Highway, and that is a infamous bus stop, right? Because we know, and we all see buses that pull up to that bus stop, and instead of going into the bus stop itself, many do a quick stop ahead of it or slightly out in the road. And many of our private vehicle drivers have to then go out further into the oncoming traffic, or they have to stop and wait for that passenger to board the bus in order to, and that backs up, by the way, traffic down the highway, traffic coming around from the Lansapine side or even up in the valley. It backs up the entire roundabout,
In fact,
What we do,
one of the comments on the chat here now is that the bus stops in some instances, for example, Granads,
Mhm,
there is a
mhm.
space to pull into the bus stop, but discipline, I
Right.
guess. The first
Exactly.
bus that
Exactly.
comes along, stop at the entrance to block off the others.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My point
And
is
that's where the officers come in. I like to hear Corporal Paul on that issue.
right. But just before
When you
I
complete.
pass it on,
Yes.
right. What I wanted to say is that it goes back to the discipline issue and the way the system, the transport system, management systems we have in place are managed today and how modernized they are. We have behavioral issues that are really detrimental to the way we operate our buses, our public transport, etc., and that has to change. And what I would say to what the doctor is saying is that our strategy going forward is to look at ways where we can balance that relationship behind the between the infrastructure and the actual behavior of our drivers. In modern society right now, I'll just give the public, your listeners, an example, and many of them know from where they're listening in the world. When I drive my car right now, it measures how closely behind the car I'm following, how heavily I brake, my general behavioral patterns when I drive my vehicle. And that actually leads to the premium I pay for insurance. So it means that when I'm on the road, I have to be very careful with how I drive my car. The technology exists today that can be implemented in buses that can at least assist in managing the behavior of our buses. And I'm just saying the GTC has been looking and discussing ways in which we can partner with our law enforcement, insurance companies. This is very old technology, by the way, to manage the behavioral side. So, in other words, if you're speeding with 18 passengers, then that should be registered through the technology. If you're not stopping and we're seeing you stopping where you're not supposed to pick up these passengers, you remember you're putting passengers in danger. It means you're not at the registered stop and you're in the way of other vehicles, right? So, so there are ways. All I wanted to share is that the GTC is looking at that behavioral relationship between the infrastructure, but also to the behavior in which our drivers, because that's important. Because guess what? We could implement all these strategies, right? But if the behavior of our drivers across the board is not in line, then none of it works, right? So that's what I wanted to add. Yep.
Yes, Corporal Paul. I'm
Yes,
sure you're
and
in
I
Concord.
agree with I agree with Mr. Campbell in relation to as the issue mentioned by one of the responses in relation to the buses and the behavioral patterns. And we've seen it when another bus doesn't want another, when one bus doesn't want another to pass in terms of getting more passengers, and they block, they pattern the bus in a particular direction, in a manner where it blocks another driver from passing them. They park in a way that is easy access, that they just drive out from where they are parked. And not only that, too, if you look at some of the buses now, that they have a lot of damages to the back of them. And these are the things that happens when you see those buses, they drive and somebody stop to take on a passenger off the bus stop, they just stop anyway. And as Mr. Campbell mentioned, in terms of braking distance and so forth, they just make a sudden stop, and we have rear end collision. And this adds to the congestion along our roadways as well. But what the issue here is the behavioral pattern of our drivers, especially the bus drivers along the Grand Anse route. And enforcement is one of the things that we must, from the RGPF standpoint, must, and I reiterate, take seriously and address those issues. And one of the ways we can do so is increase in patrols, especially motorcycle patrols along our routes, to make sure that those drivers comply. Because once they do not see police officers along those routes, they do whatever they want and they do whatever they feel like. And most times you see those things by way of persons posting videos on social media. And that's the only way we, and however, as Inspector Smith mentioned, a lot of persons are not coming forward with those information to assist law enforcement in dealing with that issue, giving us a statement, and so that we can take those matters to court, so that they would, those drivers know that we are serious and we mean business about the manner in which they drive along our roads. We would not see, or we would not be heading in the direction that we want to anytime soon. So passengers and passers-by have a responsibility as well for the things that we see happening on our nation's road, which
Paul,
also contribute to traffic congestion. So, yeah, sure.
Just a comment. People will behave how they behave. It's the state to ensure that if they behave in ways if they steal, they're supposed to arrest them, and then they go into jail or whatever. It's the same with traffic.
Yes.
If people are going to do things that are illegal on the road, then we have to put in place that will ticket them, as people do, that will take away their license, that will suspend their license, that will make sure that bus is suspended. So it can't, you see, we can't talk about people not behaving right. And then we are doing, and again, I'm talking as Ken Lewis here, not talking as the commissioner, not talking as anybody. We can't let people do wrong things and then say, well, it's difficult, they're bad. No, the state has to put in place, repercussions for behaving in that way. Otherwise, nothing will change.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this, and look, I'm not saying to anybody, I know we have problems, I know we have a history, we are a poor country, all of the usual things, but we have to stop it, because if we don't, nothing will change.
Of course. And that is why I mentioned enforcement when I was speaking earlier on. And we need and we have to ensure that we do what we have to from law enforcement standpoint. Once persons break those rules, break those laws, that we take the necessary action against them, and we bring them to the court of law. Let the fate be decided with the magistrate. And
we don't even need people to tell us when truck speeds. There
of
are
course
simple cameras. Some of them I've been looking at. Some of them now is like $50, $60. You put them up in positions, okay, and you will see the trucks that speed. You will get their license. You don't need people to come and tell you that, look, this is going to happen. Listen, in New York, they have 25 miles an hour, and they give you up to 30. And you don't always know where the cameras is. And then where the cameras are. And so I get a ticket that I did more on this place. I either pay it, or then they will suspend the car, the license, or whatever they have to do. That's it.
Yeah.
Inspector?
Yes, I concur with Corporal Paul and Mr. Lewis as well, that enforcement need to be more rigorous. We need to ensure that violators do pay the price for their behavior and so on. The mindset, and the only how the mindset will change is by enforcement and the other entities playing their part.
I do want to stress too that law enforcement has a very key role here, and we're hearing that, right? But we can't stress that system as well, because if you expect enforcement to carry the load of managing the traffic and the behavior of everyone in society, it's going to break under that pressure. because you're expecting police to be everywhere and doing everything all at once. And we know in our society that that is not possible. It's not physically possible, right? We have systems in the world today, right, that help with, ensuring that there are systems that control or incentivize behavior. If you know at the end of the day that your premium of insurance, you're going to be paying more every month, right? Let's forget the enforcement for a while. If you know that constant speeding, right, and behaviors, let's say your infringements in traffic, parking tickets, etc., are being incurred, right now, what is the actual punishment for that? Let's forget the enforcement. What is the actual ending, the long story here? There's nothing in place right now. But if you know your license could be suspended for a year, or you know that you would have to pay higher fees to enter a certain area, or you know that your insurance could possibly go up by 30%, which you don't want, then that may change your behavior. That may have a lasting impact on the way you behave in traffic, the way you drive. It's very important to note that technology has a role in all of this as well. And it goes back to things like what we're doing with the school bus program, for example, and
We have a caller
systems that.
again. Let me just take this caller, please.
Sure.
Hello, caller. Good night.
Yes, hello, good night. I wanted to add my 2 cents to this conversation because every household, everyone in Grenada, everyone who gets behind the wheel of a car or sits in a bus is affected by this issue. And so it's very topical. I want to thank you, Brother Joe, for bringing this out. And good night, Ken. This is Jerry Edwin. I haven't seen you in a long time, and I hope we can link up soon.
How you doing, Jerry?
This issue of traffic. We could talk till the cows come home. Section 67. Yes, officer, inspector, you do your job according to Section 67. But guess what? Your ability to enforce the traffic law is mitigated by what? Mr. Campbell mentioned it. Section 81. It's the minister. We have a colonial structure. I think Valma referred to it. You have a structure in which a minister is going to tell the police, slow down on that. Or the minister, and let's just cut to the chase. There is no political benefit in enforcing the traffic law to those people, especially the minister, who is responsible ultimately for making sure the police follow the law. Because there will be a hue and a cry throughout Grenada. You mentioned, let's talk about some places. Laborie. When was the last time somebody drove down the Laborie Road? Forget it. Roadside garages. I heard the policeman say, register roadside garages. No, you don't register roadside garages. You ban roadside garages. But look at it, officer, respectfully. I say this with all respect. We have political considerations. That's why the problem has persisted. Because we all know the solution. The police go out and enforce Section 67. You think the minister gonna bother with all you? He has to ensure that he keeps down the public anger about the enforcement of a cultural disorder. It's a disorder. But if the minister tries to go out and enforce this, and I don't know how it's to be fixed, because the Transportation Board can't fix it, the policeman cannot fix it. That minister, this is what we got to think about. How do we lessen the heat, the political heat on the minister, and a tradition, Ken, that has been going on for decades? Because that's the exposure. This politician is going to say, oh my God, if I go and I say you have to do this and you have to get off the road and people can have car park on the side of the road, the next guy is going to come on the platform, on his platform in the next 4 years and say, you see what they want to do to poor people? They don't like you all, you know. They don't want you to park your car so it's convenient for you when your child just come home from school or you're getting wet They want you to park way down the road and they want to charge you. You understand the political exposure that a minister, we have a system that makes a minister, not the police. It is not section 67 of the law. It's section 81. That's what you got to concentrate on. The police know exactly what they're supposed to do, but our roads are a parking lot. And once we accept that, and we think about the fixes that have to go in, we look at the impediments to fixing it. What is the impediment? The political pressure on the minister. Because our laws are written in such a way that gives the minister ultimate authority. And he is not going to put his neck on the line to enforce a entirely and proper law. Clear the roads. That's what we have to think about. Because he's going to lose if he raises his voice about this. We have cultural disorder. It is not, Ken. You're right. That's what the laws are there for, right? You enforce the law. You behave bad, you get licks. Well, I don't mean literal licks, right, Joe? I don't mean literal licks. But you break the law, and there are fines, prison, all kind of ways. Remove your privilege. We know that side of it. But Section 81 is there, fighting us, looking at us in the eyes. We have to find a way to give cover to the politician. So what should happen? My view, and I'll end now. Get the political parties involved. Get both of them. Get the ministers. Get that transportation board. Should not just be a board commissioned or set up by the ruling government. Our problems are political in these places because we are trying to build a modern state on a colonial edifice where one man, a politician, has this fiat. He's the man.
So Jerry,
Right?
I don't know if you
And
have
I'll leave
section
it there.
8. Do you have section 81 with you, so you could just tell us what it says in brief?
No, well, Mr. Campbell referred to it, and as with
Yeah,
all of these laws, whether it's
I can tell you.
environmental regulations, it always goes back. It says, Joe, as you know, the minister shall.
The minister
All
by
these-
order. By order, he can do several things.
By order,
Yeah,
he can
I
do
can-
or not.
He
Or
can
not.
I can read what
prohibit
it
or
says.
regulate parking of vehicles on any road, prohibit the
right.
driving of any vehicle
Right.
on any
Right.
specified road otherwise
Right.
than the specified direction, specify the route to be traveled by
I'm
public
telling
service
you.
vehicles, etc., etc.
Can you imagine that? Ken is a transportation expert, not the minister. The minister never even had a mortgage before he got into politics. Ken is a transportation expert.
Your point is that you should try to remove it from the table as a political issue. So
That's
Well,
the point.
it will be
That is the
it will be
point.
a national issue. So no one party
That's
can
the
come
point.
and say, well, look, if us we would not do that, and look how the wicked
Right,
they don't
there
like
you
poor
go.
people,
That's
this,
why
that.
it's not
But
fixed.
I think
My
also what Mr.
Mr.
Campbell is saying, and also Valma said, in terms of having alternatives, because without alternatives, people have vehicles now. They think about the PDN, so that's for the future. But without having, for example, maybe community parking is one of the more feasible and more practical solutions, and certainly in certain communities, because you can isolate the communities which the problem is, and the exists and the impact of the problem is greatest.
Yeah.
You address them one at a time or two at a time, as the case may be. You can't do everything, but I agree with you in terms of depoliticizing the issue, so that really it is treated as a commodity. Otherwise, you're going to choke.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Of course we're going to choke.
and
You know,
because-
we have an expert. Ken spent 25, 30 years. That's his career.
Okay, good.
All right? Ken knows how to do this with his eyes closed. It's a much smaller space, right? So, yeah, you have a bona fide expert, but he has to give way to someone with much more authority. It's like the technical officers at our ministries. They have all the expertise. They know what to do. But the minister steps in the room and sucks up all the oxygen. He has all the authority. So I think that in terms of administration, not enforcement of the law, because that's not the issue. The policemen know the law and they will enforce it, but they cannot because there's not political buy-in. And I think that's in setting up these boards, and especially the transportation board, that if we could just bring in make it a bipartisan, if you will, a tripartisan, from what I'm hearing. But certainly bring the political actors to sit down together, and I think we'll be able to solve the problem. But if you don't have them at the table, then the political backside of the politician of the day is exposed, and you know that he would not support anything like that.
All right,
Anyway,
Councillor,
that's my.
thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
That input.
Mr. Layne, I do think we need to address a few things here. In respect to the caller, I did mention the section which gives the minister the ability to provide orders. But what I want to say, especially with the GTC, right, as it pertains to that, the GTC really was established under Section 3, right, of that same act, and the GTC does provide its own strategy. The GTC is formulated by experts who are not binded by politics, right? We do not, me and Mr. Lewis do not discuss politics when we meet under the GTC and provide the minister with recommendations. I do not discuss politics and I did not join this board under any political influence, okay? I saw the need as a Grenadian myself, going across the roads. I mentioned how much infringements that I mentioned between the park and St. Andrews. So and Sateers. What I don't want to make this something or really subjugate this to only an act of politics, because that's not what this is. And I think it's key to establish that. The gentleman made some valid points about the problems that we see and what's needed. The reason I mentioned that section that gives the minister that power is because under our delegated responsibilities and what was established under Section 3, we do have a very important role to play, right? When we were brought in, and you'll see in our release strategy plan, right? When we had that press conference where you heard from various members, including myself and Mr. Lewis, including the politicians themselves, the Prime Minister himself spoke. We all spoke on what we are all trying to do, which is transformation, right? We know that things can change every political cycle, etc. But under this act, the GTC has been enabled, a new board has been put in place. Some members outside of Grenada, like myself and Mr. Lewis, that carry a lot of engineering expertise, right? To begin the process of shifting what you see here today in Grenada, right? And these legs have started to move. These things that we mentioned here today have started to move, right? So it's key to mention, I think it's very important that this does not boil down to an interpretation of a section within the act itself. Yes, the minister has the ultimate authority and can make orders, right? But I think that has a part to play when we have things that need to be done swiftly, right? Then we can consult him, and he has delegated a lot of responsibility to us, which we can speak on, right? But I think it's important to note that the GTC and the law enforcement and others are not under any sort of political pressure. We are operating in a way where we have an assigned task, we have a responsibility, and we can talk about the different things that we're trying to move in order to change what you see today. And that includes the behavioral aspect that the caller spoke about, okay? So yes, I just wanted to emphasize that.
But I think his point was, though, that at the end of the day, you have to have political will to implement the tough parts of this. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
And his point was that once that is involved, then whoever has the responsibility, whoever is in political office and has the responsibility to take the tough decisions, they could be exposed. So I think his point is that, listen, we need a non-political, I think in fact that's what you're saying. we need almost an agreement between the different political actors. And listen, this will not be a political issue. This is an issue of national development, and it will not be a political issue. Because I think his point is that some of the things you have to do, and in particular, if you're looking at, as we are speaking about enforcement, they will be tough. So I think that's what he was alluding to. But I wanted to make your other point, though, as I was saying that you can't. It has to be a balanced approach because you must have the alternatives. Sorry, Ken.
Yeah.
You know, I just wanted that. As far as I have experience on the board, I mean, I think that the board is a board, so we meet occasionally. And many times we can't actually go and do the job. We have a small office with a CEO who are developing and so on, and they're doing a lot. But the problems that we have are a lot of problems. To deal with a parking when there was no parking done before, the police themselves can't just go and just move away cars. We don't even have an organized pound, as you hear. So where are we going to put? So there has to be a lot of things in place. As a matter of fact, the Prime Minister, who is our line minister, has been very supportive. I've met with us a number of times and is actually pushing for a lot of these things to happen. So I think we have to, but as we mentioned previously, we can't just do one thing. It isn't just parking. There is a reason why people park on the road. They park on the road because there isn't other places to park, you know?
There are the vehicles, yeah.
Exactly. So we have to find solutions, real solutions, so we don't have people aggravated, as the caller said. Because yes, some of these problems can be, even people who would want congestion solved, if you tell them they can't park on the road close to their house, could be a problem. So we have to find places where they could park. We have to produce some community parks. We have to also educate people, because the biggest thing we need is a process of education. Because I always say in transportation, everyone is an expert, because everyone has taken a bus, everyone has a car, everyone, you know. So you have to socialize people with some of the things that are needed. And the board is doing that because, in fact, when are we starting the consultations? Mr. Campbell, I think we have a series coming up where we'll be going to the public and addressing some of the issues.
Absolutely. And I'm having just a bit of trouble with the camera, but yes, that is planned. The CEO and team staff at the GTC will be, along with the law enforcement. The plan is to collect as much information as we can regarding the issues that the public is facing, because we want to have as much input from the public as possible and all stakeholders, right? It's important that all affected stakeholders, we're talking businesses, members of the public, bus drivers, all have a say in this matter as it pertains to congestion. So
yes, and it has to be a multifaceted, balanced approach.
Absolutely.
In order to resolve this. Because, for example, even the bus drivers, I mean, people complain about them, and sometimes you can experience why they complain about them. Yeah. But sometimes I say to people, folks, in other countries, you know what these folks are doing? Yeah. In Grenada here, they driving buses and they hustling. Yeah. In other countries, right in the Caribbean here.
Yes.
Many of them will be doing something else that is far more damaging to the society and the community. So that's why you have to have a balanced approach. Yes, I understand the enforcement, the fining, all of this. Yeah. Sometimes I'm involved in the kind of work I do, even in advising and defending some of them. Yeah. But at the same time, you can't let it go too far. Yeah. So yes, and so even the police, they have to exercise discretion sometimes, because as Ken was saying, you have somebody, they have a car, they don't have any parking alternative. Obviously, you can't allow them to park their vehicle at 8 o'clock in the morning and hold up the traffic. What's about 7 o'clock in the night? So that's the kind of decisions we have to make. But I still want to say, in terms of Jerry calling, I think the point he was making is that we cannot, we need to find a way to depoliticize these issues so that we attack them and we're able to address them without people seeking to take political advantage of it. We have actually passed the time, so I want us to end up now. It was very, very lively tonight, but I need for us to end now, and I want to invite everyone to give closing remarks. But before we do so, I want to once again recognize those who are sponsoring this program: Jail Professional Solutions, Inc., Gem FM carrying the program on FM radio out of Canada, and also Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union.
Attention all workers, your health and safety at work are critical. At Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union, we are dedicated to ensuring you have a safe and secure work environment. If you encounter unsafe conditions or are involved in an accident, take immediate actions. Report it to the company, your shop steward, and make sure it reaches your union. Your health and safety is a priority, and a strong union means a strong voice for your rights. Don't wait. Address concerns right away and protect your well-being. For a safer workplace and a better quality of life, stand with the Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union. Together, we can create a safer, healthier work environment for everyone.
Corporal Paul, we'll take your closing comments first.
Yes, it was a pleasure indeed having regards to all the circumstances as we have listened to all the presenters tonight, and I believe some strong recommendations were made, and we looked at a lot of the issues that we face as a nation as it relates to traffic congestion, and it's definitely a challenge for Grenadians, a challenge for us, even for law enforcement and even the members of the traffic, the commission. And I believe that with those recommendations,
Hello?
am I still on?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Yes, we are hearing you.
We heard you, Corporal Paul.
Hello?
Yes, Corporal Paul. Continue, please.
I don't think he's hearing us.
Okay. Inspector, you hearing us? Inspector
Yes,
Smith?
yes, Mr. Layne. Mr. Layne, I just want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to be part of this discussion. It was a fruitful one, but coming out of it, we realized that it is something that must be approached jointly, and we just cannot look at a problem but find a solution for the problem, because you cannot tell someone that you cannot park on the side of the road, but you do not have a place for that person to actually park. So we can invest in community parking and ensure that we tackle this problem in a collaborative way. Thank you.
Yes, Corporal Paul, we have you back, but you are muted.
Yes. So as I was saying, I know it's a challenge from all entities, but I believe we have all the tools and we have the ideas, what we need to tackle. And I believe we're heading in the right direction. And I believe once we meet as committees from all entities, the Royal Grenada Police Force, the Transport Commission, and the various stakeholders, I believe that we will have the necessary solution that we can tackle and deal with those issues in a timely manner so that we can have that easement in traffic congestion as we're seeing on our nation's road. And I just want to implore from law enforcement standpoint that we will continue to do what we are doing to ensure that our part is played as we deal with the issue of congestions on our nation road. And I just want to say that I have learned a lot by listening to this program tonight, and I would definitely rethink in the way how we look at traffic congestion, and making suggestions, and even other forums, going back to the drawing board so that we can have better solutions going forward. And I just want to say thank you again for having me, and it was a pleasure. Thank you.
Yes. Ken, you are Hatuey.
Okay, I just want to go. Just want to say, Corporal Paul and Inspector Ryan, I am actually learning a lot from you guys, so I really appreciate being here. I just wanted to mention that we didn't touch on one subject, which was climate change and how that affects us. All of our roads are right and closer to the sea. We see what happened in Mclean. We see what happened in Gov, which is closer to the Peters Park, into
Yeah.
those areas. So we have to look at that, and that's another reason we have to look at this holistically, and we have to really think about that, because what is coming, the hurricanes are bigger, there's a lot more water on the roads that will affect roads so we have a lot of things to think about, both in the short term and in the long term. So just happy to be here with so many people working on these problems. Thanks so much again for inviting me.
Hatuey?
Certainly. Well, I want to thank you for bringing us on here. On behalf of the GTC, what I will say is that we are eager to bring forward our strategic plan. We're eager to have the outreach with the public and all major stakeholders when it comes to changing the way we view the safety of all drivers and passengers within our public transportation system. And we are looking at this from a short-term and long-term standpoint. What we are trying to do is really rethink certain areas of how we view our behavior, the way we treat getting someone from point A to point B, and what that means for our livelihoods across the board, right? It's going to take the effort of everyone involved. This is not a bus driver issue, a police issue by itself. This is a me and you issue, right? We are all Grenadians, and it's going to take every single Grenadian to make this change happen, right? So I want to very much stress that. So thank you, and there'll be lots more to come from the GTC. Thank you.
Yep. Well, gentlemen, thank you so very much. Thank you to all those who are following the program. Thank you to all those who contributed, and there were lots of contributors. There's a last comment there. Someone said there are a number of low-hanging fruits that can be easily addressed. So maybe we should identify those. And I think what I gather from this conversation on the whole is that A, there's a problem. B, the solution has to be multifaceted, involve and see you next week. Bye.